Hello and welcome to the daily newspaper analysis and initiative of the UPSConline.com and Ambition IAS. Today we shall be discussing the newspaper of the 3rd of January 2018. So coming to the first article, this is a column article on the editorial page of the Hindu. It is read as a questionable remedy. The opinion is that the key sections of National Medical Commission Bill need a rethink. Now coming to the context of this article, it is on the context of a bill, that is the National Medical Commission Bill 2016. This bill has been sent to the standing committee by the Lok Sabha. Now the bill is actually aimed at a reformation or a change at the Medical Council of India. It proposes to replace the Medical Council of India by a new body which will be known as the National Medical Commission. So this is the context of this article. The background is slightly about MCI, the Medical Council of India. This is a statutory body which was formed in 1934 after the 1933 Act of Medical Council. Now, the issue regarding this statutory body is that the body MCI has been continuously criticized for corruption, and the body was had the mandate of taking care of the medical education and standards within the country. Now, in the aftermath of these corruption charges, especially in 2010, there was a very famous case where Dr. Ketan Desai, who was the then president of the MCI, was booked on corruption charges, and the body was at that time even dissolved. And then, it was established in 2013. But time and again, questions are being raised on the efficiency of the MCI. Further, with the introduction of Niti Aayog, proposals have been made by the Niti Aayog that the body altogether needs to be revamped. So it is in this regard that a new body, that is the National Medical Commission, is being envisaged. This body, National Medical Commission, shall be overseen by another body which will be an independent medical advisory council. So the advisory council will be the supreme body which will look into the functioning of the National Medical Commission. This is what is the proposal in the bill. However, there are many issues regarding the bill, as a result of which it has gone to the standing committee. So what are these issues? We shall be discussing those. The first issue is that both these bodies, that is the Medical Advisory Council and below it the National Medical Commission. Now the issue is that the members of the National Medical Commissions shall be the part of the Advisory Council. So here it is an evident conflict of interest, and an actual oversight on this body is something that is appearing dubious in this scenario. So this is what is being objected to. Further, another primary objection here is that the proposed bill has a provision where a bridge course can be allowed for alternative medicine practitioners, for example the Ayush practitioners, to prescribe modern drugs. Now this is something that is being objected to by all the doctors. So this is one issue. Considering an analysis regarding this bridge course has been given in this editorial, which is important. First and foremost, you have to understand that what is the benefit of this bridge course. The benefit will be that in India there is a huge deficiency of doctors, especially in the rural areas. So it is envisaged that when such a bridge course shall be provided, the number of doctors will increase, and this will plug the shortfall, especially in the by creating a new cadre of practitioners, especially for the rural areas. So that is definitely going to be a benefit. Now, what are the criticisms that are being hailed against this? First and foremost, the issue is that the MCI has various regulations even on qualified MBBS doctors and nurses. Even simple procedures like a cesarean childbirth or maybe an ultrasound test is something that is not being allowed to the MBBS professionals. So this is a contentious issue. The editorial advocates that instead of making altogether new cadre of practitioners, it would be a wisest decision if the government allowed for its MBBS doctors to perform these procedures. Also, some procedures should be allowed to nurses as well. For example, nurses are not allowed to give anesthesia to the patient. So in such kind of situations, it will be better and easier to plug this vacuum by allowing the MBBS doctors to perform these procedures, because in the present scenario a large number of MBBS doctors are going in for postgraduate degrees, and this is creating that momentary vacuum in the health system. This is one argument that has been given. Also, there is a proposal that instead of allowing this bridge course to the Ayush practitioners, it would be better that and a 3-year diploma for rural medical care providers should be developed. This would be a better option as compared to the bridge course is suggested by some experts. Now, an example has been given that such a system was adopted in Chhattisgarh, where it had a large, vacuum of doctors in its rural area. So to bridge that, Chhattisgarh had gone ahead with this 3-year diploma course to create a new cadre. However, this was done in 2001. However, due to objections to this was not a successful experiment. So that is one case study which has been given. Also, in this context, an opinion has been given by the author that India needs to innovate with its healthcare delivery models. This definitely is a good option. See, because of India's specific needs in healthcare and its specific challenges, India cannot adhere to international practices or what other countries are doing. Rather, it has to innovate. It's a sort of a social innovation which the country has to adopt. In such a scenario, these kind of models of a bridge course or maybe a 3-year diploma course in healthcare are options that need to be explored and not outrightly rejected. But caution needs to be adopted because this is a matter of health. It is a matter of life of the citizens, which is above all. So that is the opinion that the author has given. And another good suggestion is that some deregulation in the MBBS practitioners as well as for nurses should be allowed. So those are the important points in this article. Coming to the next article, on the ledger. Expenditure data underline the government's challenge on fiscal consolidation. Now, the context of this article is largely of the fiscal deficit that the government has been facing. The fiscal deficit of the government has overshot its budgetary targets. That is the context of this article. Now, coming to some background where I shall be explaining to you some of these terms and the budgetary terms which have been used in this article. First and foremost, you have to understand what is fiscal deficit. Now, whenever a government is making a budget, it has two heads. First and foremost is its income, receipts, and the second head is its expenditure head. Now, coming to the receipts head, there are two types of receipts. Either receipts can happen from revenues or it can happen from capitals. Revenue is rather the receipts that are happening as a result of when the government's answerability is not there for that. For example, a tax is given to the government. In such a scenario, the government is not supposed to return this tax to the people. So this is the revenue receipt in a broad way, if you have to understand. And capital receipt is a receipt for which a liability is created on the government. So that is what capital receipt is. Now, in the revenue receipts, there are two kinds of receipts, that is tax revenue and non-tax revenue. Now, this is the basic understanding of the revenue area, and in the capital also there are two kinds of capital receipts, debt capital receipts and non-debt capital receipts. As the name suggests, that in debt capital receipts there is a loan which is going to be taken by the government, so that is going to create a liability. In non-debt capital receipts, some other way revenue is going to be generated, like for instance, in the article itself, there's a good example that this has the non-capital receipts have been generated through listing of public listing of state-run insurance companies. So that is a way of non-debt capital receipts. So this is the entire idea. Now, a fiscal deficit happens when the revenue income and the total expenditure, when the expenditure is more as compared to the revenue in receipts of the government. In such a scenario, there is a deficit that occurs. This deficit is known as the fiscal deficit. So the fiscal deficit will represent that how much the government needs to borrow to plug the gap between the expenditure and the revenue receipts. So this is what fiscal deficit is, and in the present scenario, this has been on a rise. Now, some facts and some issues related to this is that fast-paced increase in total expenditure despite variability within different ministries is the cause of rising fiscal deficit. So the cause is not merely a fall in the revenue, but rather in this case there is a excessive expenditure. Also, another aspect that has been brought about is that the expenditure is varying between different ministries. For example, one ministry has spent more, whereas the other ministry has failed to even match the expenditure that was expected out of it. So that is one issue. This is also in line with the fact that the budget presentation has been preponed by the government last year to the 1st of February, and this was primarily done with the interest that the ministry should be able to spend whatever budget has been allocated to them. So that is another loophole, that this is not happening across all ministries. So that is one issue that has been brought forth. Also, the second issue is that there is a slow increase in revenue receipts compared to the expectations. Now, why is this slow rise in the revenue receipts? It could be said that because this year was a transition year and GST was rolled out from 1st of July. So because of this, revenue receipts have fallen. Now, this could be one excuse that the government is going to give, but this is not a universal excuse or a very acceptable one, because other areas are important. For example, the non-tax revenues of the government, the non-tax revenue of the government has also been falling. So that is another primary concern which the editorial brings about, that this is not related to the GST, as this includes payments and penalties and fines and gifts. Those are the areas which come under non-tax revenue. So there has been a shortfall here also. This again has impacted the fiscal deficit. Another thing is that there are some major concerns rising due to this widening fiscal deficit. First and foremost is that the government has committed to recapitalizing the public sector banks, and in this context additional funds will be required, so the expenditure will again rise, and in this scenario this will have again a cascading effect on the fiscal deficit, which will balloon more. So that is one issue. Another issue is that the government has been borrowing additional rupees 50,000 crore from the market to fulfill its expenditures. This, the government has said it is going to reduce its treasury bill, but definitely it is going to have some impact on the fiscal deficit. Further, the fiscal deficit is widening despite an increase in the non-debt capital receipts. So even if the non-debt capital receipts had been rising, the government's fiscal deficit has risen. That is another issue. Also, recently the Moody's has upgraded India's sovereign credit rating. So this is a good achievement for India. However, this depends upon fiscal discipline of the government. So there is little room for complacency, and in case of any slippage of fiscal discipline by the government, the rating can be again downgraded. So that is one concern. Further, the RBI has reiterated that the fiscal deficit is going to have inflationary impacts, and this is again going to impact the policy cuts that the RBI is going to have on the repo rate or other rates. So in such a scenario, the lending abilities of the banks is going to be compromised. So that is important. Also, private investment in the country is still slow. So fiscal deficit in that scenario is also difficult to get plugged. Therefore, there is a need to adhere to fiscal consolidation, is what is the opinion in this editorial. So that's about this editorial. Coming to the next article. This is a small article which is about regaining the focus. It says that the Indian Science Congress needs to go back to its roots rather than provide a podium for politics. So this opinion in itself is the crux of this article. The article is very specific. It's not so very important, but some points are of relevance. So I've included this article today. First and foremost, that you should remember that the Science Congress had an aim, and the aim was to be a forum for scientists to be a forum for scientists to present topical research, get funds, and serve as a platform for service to reach broader public. So that is the entire aim that the Congress had. This is some history regarding the Congress, which becomes important from PT point of view, that the first Congress was held from January 15 to 17, 1914. At the Asiatic Society in Calcutta. This can come as a direct question in the prelims. Some names have been given of the scientists who were participants of the Science Congress before independence. So they had a vision. But in the present times, the Science Congress is plagued by some issues. For example, many scientists claim that it is largely a pomp and ceremony, taking precedence over the substance of science in this Science Congress. Also, in the year 2015, which was the 100th Science Congress, a major issue was that politicians were invited to the Congress, and they made statements where they talked about ancient aeroplanes and ancient spacecrafts. So such kind of statements by politicians and even coming from the scientific fraternity was criticized by many other science groups as something that was unacceptable at a platform of the Science Congress. That such kind of beliefs and myths of ancient supremacy of India is something that should not have been echoed by the scientific fraternity. So this was a major controversy at that point of time regarding the Science Congress. Another thing is that there is a need to make the platform of Science Congress, an arena where the young students come to meet the leading scientists. This is not again happening. It is largely somehow an isolated group, and interaction with the common public is not something that is being encouraged in this Congress, is another criticism to it. So the opinion is, as I had mentioned before, is that the Science Congress should go back to its root of being a stage for science rather than a podium for politics. That is a good opinion that has been given by the author. Coming to some information, we are starting with the UPSC prelims cum mains classes from the 6th of January 2018 at 10 a.m. We shall be covering all the basics, the NCERTs, the daily newspaper, the prelims test series, mains answer writing on a daily basis. So if you are interested, please do get in touch with us. Also pass on this information to the interested candidates. Our contact details are given here. This is our address and this is our phone number. So with this, I finish today's discussion. I thank you all for watching this video and I hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you.